Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly.
2, 1.
Vinyl Tap. I'm Tim.
I'm Tim.
And we just listened to Maroon 5's 2002 entry, Songs About Jane.
Yes.
It's an album.
It is an album.
I like Jane. At first, I thought I didn't like Jane. I thought Jane was shit, and I hated her. And then I heard all of the songs on the album and realized I don't know where that misconception came from. I don't know why I thought I hated Maroon 5 so much, but I don't. They're okay.
Well, I mean, this album is.
Yeah.
But the rest of Maroon 5, that's a whole other kettle of fish for another
Who's keeping
conversation.
Fish in a kettle?
Lots of people.
They are,
All right.
apparently.
Yeah, Maroon 5, they have kettles full of fish. And they released this album 18 years ago and were dominating radio play for years afterwards from this album, right?
I mean, it was a bit of a sleeper. I don't think it had a lot of commercial success when it was first
I remember
released.
2004, She Will Be Loved being huge, something like that.
I think their last single from the album was in 2005, so 3 years after they first released it.
That's such a long time.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
From what I understand as well, they went huge in Australia, really big in Australia.
Really?
Maybe less so in other places, like the US and stuff. Is that right?
I
Right.
think there was France and England, and I don't think they were as big in the US, but there was still a fair enough places for them to be kind
Interesting. And then they probably
international.
reached more commercial success domestically with Sugar and Payphones and them. That's later on, right?
Moves like Jagger.
And maybe that's why they stuck with that sound instead of this.
Right.
Anyway, we'll get into that
we'll
at another
get
point in time.
First off, this album, I'm pleased to hear that you've come around on it, Beeps, because we've spoken about it before, and you were not keen on it,
No.
and so that's nice.
Yeah, look, I did forget that they had this sound, and it's very iconic. It's like a weird grungy Stevie Wonder, and I like it. Jason, you don't think it's Stevie Wonder-esque?
I'm just considering it. I don't know if I agree with that initially. In what way do you think it's Steve? Because I think the Stevie Wonder is okay because it grooves really hard. It's the grunge that I think I disagree with.
I think the grunge, okay, not grunge as in the genre. Grunge as in the tones and the idea and the kind of the sexy, dirty distortion and the bass that just want to.
I don't know.
They're
pretty
love to your ears, you know.
They're pretty clean sounding for the most part, though. Grunge, you do think of distortion. I think that they're pretty.
Did we listen to the same album?
Okay, I know what Jason's talking about. She Will Be Loved, right? That's the cleanest sound you can imagine, right?
Right.
But then something like Tangled.
Yeah.
Coming Home, even Through With You.
Again, though, that's not
It's filth.
grunge distorted kind of sound, though. It's dirtier, but it's still it's a clean dirty.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but I think that's a bit.
Right,
it's
it's
a bit
not
grungy,
doom metal.
man. It's not doom metal, no, but it's getting a bit in the dirt, you know. It's not playing all nice.
There's a bit of grit to it.
Writing an album about your ex that's this to the point, it's kind of gonna happen, you know, especially in things like Tangled, where it's I can't remember the exact lyric, but talking about how he's not proud of some of the things he's done. It kind of thematically fits.
Right. So I didn't really catch any of the lyrics in this album. So is that the theme? I mean, songs about Jane. I'm assuming it's about an ex, but
It's about his ex.
Adam Levine's ex? Is that
Adam
the idea?
Levine's ex.
Yeah.
He's been pretty open about it. He's confirmed it.
We've all been there. We've all written.
Oh, and that's
an
the thing.
album's worth of
It's
songs about a single person.
It's. I was gonna say, just from a thematic point of view, it's something that's very easy for, you know, most people to kind of grasp onto. Like, you know, the feelings that are spoken about throughout this album are like things that most people will experience at some point in their life.
Yeah, which I think is what I think the biggest single from this was "She Will Be Loved," and that's still a
Right.
widely known song to this day, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's basically the reason for it. Is it's so applicable generically. Like everyone's gonna have a situation where that song will be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm feeling, you know?
Yeah. Also, that song, contextually, because I've heard the single like hundreds of times, but
course.
contextually in the album, it's really interesting. That chorus, it's got, there's like a big, the interval leap is a fifth, right? And contextually,
Yeah.
that's huge. I mean, like a fifth isn't actually that big of an interval leap, but through basically
Yeah.
every song leading up to it and through the whole verse of that song, it's so like it moves in steps, it's thirds, there isn't really anything big. And
That's
then
a really
suddenly
interesting
like
point.
yeah, and I thought that was I've never like heard it in that context, and it's kind of like it clicked all of a sudden. And it really
Right.
gives power to that whole chorus.
That's cool.
That is a really, really interesting thing to have noted.
It's also one of the like 3 songs on the album that's in a major key for the chorus.
Right.
What are the other two?
Really?
Sunday Morning
Yep.
and Must Get Out, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is
That makes sense.
a really, really cute song, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Sunday Morning, I definitely noted as kind of it just sounded like Must Get Out, and it was like
Yeah.
just a generic copy of it.
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
I'll get into that though. I lose interest as the album goes on, but I think that might be a discussion for a little.
That's
bit
really
later.
interesting. I have the complete opposite experience where I'm
Really?
like, okay, I know all of these songs before because the first 6 songs on the album, everyone knows. Everyone knows those songs. And then later on, it's like, oh yeah, that song's on the album. I really liked that song and I've completely forgotten about it. Like The Secret. I was like, oh, shit,
Right.
that song.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah, but I just as it went on, the things that were kind of interesting and original just got recycled. So now we were just hearing almost the same song again, which it wasn't that I didn't like any of them, and it wasn't that I was losing interest per se, but it was the same. Like, it was more of the same, I should say.
So do you think that they could have pushed this sound further in more experimental directions?
Yes. I would
Yeah.
say yes. Because I've got some notes on like generally what I think made it interesting across the album without getting into like specifics.
Shoot.
Firstly, I'd say the drums, because I've never sat down and like analyzed it before. Obviously, I've listened to it and know the album. The drums are insanely underrated for just like a casual listener. They are like the straight man in this situation that just allow the bass and guitar to groove and be syncopated and do all the interesting stuff, and the drums just sit there and carry through like pretty much every single song. And then on top of that, having the like syncopation and the groove, which is generally in the verses, they then kind of like have rhythmic unison or very on-beat things in the chorus to really like amp it up and make it feel stronger and more powerful. And then they also generally tend to like have these weird little tacits where they'll drop down to just the drum or just the drum and bass at the end
a
of
single
choruses
bar or something.
for a single bar, just to like bring it back down for the verses. And
That's really effective.
it is really effective, and it's like it's littered throughout the album. It doesn't happen in like every single song, but for the most part, the drums weren't locking in with the bass, and the bass and guitar were locking in together or doing independent things, and the drums were just like individually like on the
I'd
beat.
say, if anything, it was Adam who was locking into the drums, you know? Because this is a very rhythmically vocal album.
Yes. Especially that first song, "Harder to Breathe." It's almost rap-like in its enunciation and
Yeah,
just
absolutely, yeah.
it's a bit of a limited melodic range as well. So he's just hitting you with this intense rhythm that
Well, I
is
mean,
amazing. I loved it.
if it's hard to breathe, you're not going to have big air to do like jumps and leaps and
So we've
stuff.
got
You're
some
just trying to
word
get
painting
your.
going on
There is a lot of
for
word
you
painting,
year 10
especially
style
like
students.
under the line, like harder to breathe with the like panting and breathing underneath it,
Yeah.
where everything else
Yeah.
is dropped out except for the drums, the panting, and the like lead vocal. Like it's just cool.
It's really cool.
You know.
Oh, and actually, a note on that song, the chorus, again, this is what got me on the whole Stevie Wonder thing. Pastime Paradise by Stevie Wonder and the chorus of Harder to Breathe are so similar. Like, it's not like carbon copies, but they are cut from the same cloth,
Right.
which was a fun little discovery.
Interesting. I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, so will I. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Cool thing about this song to me is it's pretty much in the Phrygian mode. It's got a flat 2 throughout, and like it doesn't draw any attention to it. Like you would think, oh yeah, it's just a regular song in a minor key, right? No, it's Phrygian.
Right.
Because it's got a B minor chord and we're in C sharp minor, so there's a D natural there. So that's why it has like this like weird, I'd call it grungy, like this darkness to that third chord in the progression. It's like, whoa, dude, you got me.
Right.
And actually, there's a lot
Maybe
more
that's-
modal fuckery than you'd expect. Like there's sharp 6
Throughout the
story
whole
and
album?
stuff in, yeah. The sun is a bit Dorian-y. Oh yeah, and broadly in a harmonic sense, they love stepwise motion. It's like
Yeah.
diatonic or chromatic, mainly chromatic. Which
Tangled
I
has a
said
really
to
good
Jason is
example of
probably
that,
why
right?
he likes this album.
There's a lot of stuff being thrown around here that explains why I like the album as
Yeah.
much as what I do.
Like Tangled, pretty much the entire.
Yeah.
Well, you asked me about the chorus chords in Tangled. It's basically just an A minor chord, and the bass note is going down a semitone at a time. That's it.
Right. Is that it? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I really liked how that was used with the melody because the vocal melody is ascending and then the
Yes.
harmony is descending, and that movement just creates this huge distance, which
Yeah.
gives it so much spice.
And
I
there's
love it.
there's this one section, I think it's a post-chorus before the solo comes in, where it's doing that chord progression where the bass line's just descending chromatically, and Adam he's just singing an A harmonic scale. That's all he's doing. And like you're absolutely right, it just like spreads out from there. But one's going diatonically and one's going chromatically, so it doesn't create any dissonance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking clever is what that is. And then
I mean,
'cause I
they
mentioned the
they
solo,
do that same.
this is-
Oh, sorry, go on.
Okay, they do this thing where they have the guitar solo, and then they later overlay that over the chorus because it's the same chords, right? So they can just do that. Did you notice that? They do that in Tangled. They do it in Shiver, I think.
Yeah.
When you say overlay the guitar solo, do you mean like cut copy, or the guitar solo is going and then it's
It's the exact same solo played again over the chorus.
Right.
I don't know if it's cut copy.
Huh.
Probably not, because why would you do that when you can just
probably
record
not?
it?
But that's incredible. That's really cool. No, I didn't notice
Yeah.
that at all. I think like I was tuning
So,
into
yeah.
the solo,
There-
and then when it was sort of coming back, I was just thinking it was a really cool like guitar riff, and I hadn't
Yes,
connected that.
and,
it's
and
the
that's how
same
I felt
thing
like
exactly.
the first 20 times I listened to the album. It was like, oh, that's a cool guitar line it sounds vaguely familiar. It's because you heard it 20 seconds ago.
I was going to say they're really good for their final choruses, making them huge of counter melodies, vocal harmonies, putting guitar lines in that have already been in the song, and just really, because a lot of the counter melodies are melodies that have already been in
Yeah.
the song as well. They're really good at
Yeah.
fleshing it
So-
out and making it thick without introducing new material.
If you want to
so
think
it
about
all
where
feels
this kind of idea comes from, it's like this is an idea from classical music, like incorporating previous ideas into like your main idea to ramp up the intensity towards the end of it. That's exactly what Beethoven did. It's crazy. Bit of a leap there, but don't worry about it.
while we are
I mean,
on
look, Maroon
Tangled.
5 and Beethoven are definitely in the same
Tight.
the same musical genre.
Oh, can I throw another name into the mix?
Go for it.
Because she also sang on this song and 2 other songs on the album. Rashida Jones from Parks and Rec does like backup vocals on Tangled. What are the other 2? Secret and Not Coming Home.
And Perkins.
Yeah, and Perkins.
Crazy.
which I didn't know until we started looking at this today.
That's
but I
ridiculous.
was like, really? Is that the same person? And it is the same person.
All right then. Good for her.
Yeah.
Another point that they do to ramp up the intensity of that last chorus of a lot of songs, the melody will, instead of inhabiting the chord tone that it's been on the whole song, it'll go up another chord tone. So like it'll just jump up from the third to the fifth and just live there instead, which is it maintains the same contour. So you've heard it before, right? It's just a little more intense because it's occupying a higher space.
That's really interesting.
So there's a lot of really clever compositional techniques throughout this album. There's a lot to appreciate here.
Speaking of clever
Really is.
compositional techniques, can we talk about what my favorite melody on the album is, Tim?
Sure.
In Must Get Out, the pre-chorus.
Yeah. What are the lyrics there? Do you remember?
I'd have to go through them from the beginning of the song to get to them.
Right.
I think it's like fumbling through your dresser drawer,
That's the
forgot
one.
what I was looking for,
Yeah.
try to guide me in the right direction.
Yeah. Right. So they do this a lot as well, is using the same melody. Right. So this is very popular in a lot of pop music, I guess, but it's very obvious here. Well, I shouldn't say obvious. It's effective. That's really what I'm going for. So he does the same melody, do-da-da-da-da-da-dun, over a G chord, then the same thing over B minor. But it's in second inversion. This is another one of those descending bass lines. It goes dum 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 boom. So we've got a B minor in second inversion, and then we finally arrive at the tonic in the melody. So you'd expect it to be a big release of tension, right? Except the chord is changed to a G7 in third inversion. A third inversion 7 chord is really unstable, especially if it's from the tonic. So it's still building up the tension. And then the melody descends and we have a soft release into the C chord.
This
I
answers
really-
so much.
I really doubt that all of this was going through anyone's head when they wrote it, but it's indicative of a really good intuition of how to weave melody and harmony together.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
I also
go
noticed
out on a limb
a
here
few-
just before you go
Yeah.
on, Tim, and say that I really hated this song and I really hated this chorus, and and that explains it so much because it's essentially just a watered down version of "She Will Be Loved," and that instead of having that really big intervallic leap, it becomes this sort of triadic step, and it doesn't hit it. It doesn't hit that point because it's harmonically linked.
Right.
It's in that third
So "She
inversion
Will Be
chord.
Loved" has this huge cathartic
Yeah.
release of okay, cool.
But then melodically though,
Right.
it reaches this point and it's destabilized harmonically and then it descends melodically. And then it soft releases and the whole thing just falls into this gentle.
Well, the whole song is intentionally subdued.
Yeah,
It's
you've been oppressed by the city and you have to get out. That's
well,
what it's
see,
about.
Yeah, that's the thing. It did feel very subdued and it felt very just kind of flat. And I appreciated it.
pretty.
Yeah, but is it pretty?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think contextually in the album it worked because it was so weak. It was rhythmically weak, it was melodically weak, harmonically it was kind of weak. It was just a very flat song. And I think that worked great for the album because it sort of resets the pace and it resets the energy. But as a single, I was bored. So, you know,
Alrighty.
sue
Well,
me.
that's on you.
Well, don't sue me. I can't afford it. Maybe kill me.
I want to bring up 2 more chord progressions throughout songs just to cover all my bases because there's a lot to talk about harmonically here. Sunday Morning, pretty much the whole song except for the breakdown, which does require more horns. Why didn't you bring a trumpet in? Is a 2-5-1. It's just D minor 7, G, C. That's it. That's the song. It's
Right.
2-5-1. It's
Yeah, but the bass grooves so hard
yeah,
in
it's
that
so
song.
groovy
Yeah.
that it
And
doesn't fucking matter that
if
it's just 3 chords for
the-
the whole 4 minutes or whatever.
vocal harmonies or backup vocals of Sunday Morning are my favorite part of that song. Just the little call and response bits that they have, and then the woes that they have later on. They're just so gorgeous. And I know that the counter melodies and the vocal harmonies are in other songs, but I just think that they're done like to perfection in Sunday Morning.
That's interesting. Again, Sunday Morning, I lost it. Again, as a single, it would be okay, but in the context of the album, I'd already heard all of that, and I didn't feel like it had been done even better. Like that breakdown, the bridge, dun, 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 like cool, amazing. But that was the interesting part because that was something fresh. The rest of it, it was like I could listen to any other song in this whole album and get the same experience.
Interesting.
Clearly, that's just me who thinks that.
You've, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
And the
moving
other
on,
chord progression,
yeah.
Secret, right?
Yeah.
Crazy
Yep.
song. It's a fucking bossa nova. Let's be honest.
Yep.
It's got the wildest harmony in the album, and I'll tell you why. It's got this little bitty bit. It's in A minor, so this chorus starts with C, then the bass line's grammatically descending because of course it is, but it's doing it in such a weird way. So it has a C6 chord, A minor 7, whatever. Then B7. This is pulled out of key, so it's like, oh, we're going somewhere. Then there's a tritone sub to B flat major 7, and then it resolves to A minor. Doesn't sound like a resolution, but it is. I know, it's complicated. They're using complex
Right.
stuff here. The
I
really
really
cool
like
thing
that.
about this, they've got a chromatically descending bass line and a pedal A on top, which is something I'm so in love with that it's
That
actually one of my
that
favorite
pedal A
progressions
is what
I've
the
ever heard.
guitar is playing, right?
Yes.
It's like it almost sounds like a piano. They've got this really nice like crisp tone, and then it's so high in the register. Right. That was really, really
Yeah.
cool. I mean, it's
that might be my
interesting
favorite
that you
progression in the
mentioned
album.
like the bossa nova kind of rhythm. They really love like the 1, 2, and rhythm, and they've got it all throughout. Where it's like what is it, like 1, 3, 4, and in Shiver.
Yep.
And I feel like the hallmark of the really good songs on this album all have that syncopated rhythm, where it's like
It's all
you know,
about the amount of space left by the rhythm section, right? Well, guitar and
Right.
bass, I should say, because the drums, as Jason pointed out, are just this constant thing that's grooving
Well, they're
along.
just giving you the beat so that everything else can feel syncopated.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, but
the guitar and bass leave all of this space, which allows Adam to go off
yes,
and leave
yeah.
guitar to have some funky times. Shall we get into
Yeah, I mean,
favorites,
some of-
everyone?
Oh, I was
sorry.
just going to really quickly say before we go into favorites, just some of the drum and bass relationships. I think in The Sun, there's this, the bass movement is really, really nice. Basically, its melodic movement is sort of marked with a snare drum hit. So you sort of get this like dun 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 kind of, and it's it weaves all the way through where it's you basically it's playing a melody, but it's never getting in the way of the drums, and the drums are always marking when you're going to get that kind of melodic movement in the bass, and it's just such a nice tight kind of groove, and it happens all throughout. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Favorites, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. I think Harder to Breathe, She Will Be Loved. Between those two.
This is not what I was expecting from you at all.
Yeah, I was
Well done.
expecting a lot of pushback from you.
And he's picked the like most popular,
Popular
single
ones,
on the album.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, look, I'm just a basic bitch. What can I say?
Yeah, way to defy expectations. I'm proud of you.
I want to give like a honorable mention to like She Will Be Loved. They've got like this really subtle slow build that isn't super slow in the first verse to get to the chorus, where like they kind of like each line add another instrument in to like very subtly build it up. But I would say it's probably between You're Gonna Hate Me Babes, Must Get Out, or The Sun as like my favorites. And I've had a lot of different favorites across the years on this. It always changes for me.
I can relate to that. I remember when I was like 10, my favorite song on the album was She Will Be Loved. And then I was like, oh, I've heard that too many times. It must now be This Love, which is a total banger that we have barely mentioned. But no, the best song on the album is The Sun. And I won't be hearing anything more on that.
It's all right, Beebs. You've got time to grow up. Click above to find out what else we've spoken about in this theme.
Click below to support the artist that we just listened to.
And make sure to tune in next week for more Vinyl Tap.
That's pretty good.